I've seen studies around turmeric, like different forms of turmeric and curcuminoids, and its effect on senescent cells. What's the research though? Is that something that you have found as well?
Yeah, so curcumin, the active constituent that's found in turmeric, it was identified in that 2018 study that I mentioned about fisetin. It was
Okay.
identified as a senolytic agent. That was the first time that we had recognized that. So it does work in the same way that fisetin and quercetin work. It disables those SCAP network proteins in senescent cells. But the nice thing about curcumin is that we know where it works in the body.
Hmm.
And so these senolytic agents aren't um, aren't perfect. They don't work everywhere in the body. They tend to be organ specific or tissue
Yeah.
specific, which we know when you work with botanical medicines, right? If you work with ginkgo, you know it has an affinity for the brain.
Hmm.
If you work with hawthorn berry, it has an affinity for the heart. If you work with milk thistle, it has an affinity for the liver. Botanicals always have organ affinities. And curcumin has an affinity for the central nervous system and specifically the brain because it does cross the blood brain barrier. And so we know that it's senolytic and we know that it targets the brain. And so as neurohackers, we were excited about that because we always take care of the brain in everything that we do. Every formula that we create, we're always putting a brain element in there
Hmm.
because we think that that is potentially the most important aspect of health overall. So curcumin is super interesting. It is low bioavailable, and so the bioavailability wars are alive and well when it comes to turmeric. But I think when it comes to curcumin, it's not always about bioavailability. I do think that there is some really interesting data right now about how turmeric will modulate and shift the microbiome.
Hmm.
And so in part, that's how it's working.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't even need to get into the bloodstream. It's shifting the microbiome and then it's having that physiologic effect in the body.